New year, new you, new EHR? Therapy Notes, the most trusted behavioral health software among mental health professionals, could be just the thing that you're looking for. Designed for group and solo clinicians alike, their comprehensive platform seamlessly combines billing, scheduling, documentation, telehealth, e-prescribe, and more into one easy-to-use software. Use promo code MODERN and try them free for 2 months today. This episode is also brought to you by Buying Time. Since 2007, Buying Time has supported entrepreneurs and therapists on their admin, marketing, and bookkeeping needs, and so much more.
Check out their free Buying Time Systems Inventory Checklist to uncover hidden expenses and optimize spending in your practice at buyingtimellc.com/MTSG.
You're listening to the Modern Therapist Survival Guide, where therapists live, breathe, and practice as human beings. To support you as a whole person and a therapist, here are your hosts, Curt and Katie Vernoy.
Welcome back, Modern Therapists. This is the Modern Therapist Survival Guide. I'm Curt with Katie Vernoy, and this is the podcast for therapists about the things that go on in our profession, things that go on in our lives, the people who are in it. And we are doing this very awesome series where we are talking with current grad students and hopefully following up with all of them on kind of a year-by-year basis, just to get a pulse for what is going on in grad school world. It's been about 20 years since I was in grad school, and it's easy to get out of touch. And even with my role in having been an educator before, so we are joined by Marvin Vasquez. He's agreed to come in and talk with us about his experiences so far, getting a snapshot of where he's at in his life. So thank you very much for joining us in this journey.
So Marvin, we're going to ask you the question we've made up for this series, which is, who are you and why did you decide to become a therapist?
Well, my name's Marvin. I'm a first-year marriage and family therapist at CSUN, California State Northridge. The who am I is I'm still figuring that out. I think this program is really asking that existential question and really pushing really pushing me to find who I really am. I decided to pursue therapy after reflecting on my own life experience, particularly my upbringing. I come from a large family with immigrant parents who faced a lot of challenges. I've always been drawn to helping. I think it's part of our community. It's something that we grew up with, helping our family, helping others, helping our community. And through those experiences and emotional and psychological struggles that I dealt with growing up, especially coming from that type of collectivistic background, I really felt that it was a duty to serve this underserved community. And because of all those impacts of my past and the intergenerational trauma that I'm currently learning and all the mental stigma that comes with just being by the way, I'm Latinx, Hispanic, all those things that come with this culture, I wanted to use my personal experience and my struggles to support others in like similar situations. And hopefully I can do that by being a therapist. It's something that growing up wasn't a possibility for me and my parents. And I hope to help other individuals in similar positions have that opportunity. So that's why I want to seek this profession.
So at the time of recording, you are wrapping up your first semester here. And I want to explore a little bit around what were your expectations 5 months ago as you were about to start into grad school. I remember everybody on the first days of when I was in grad school, we were all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and we're going to go out and we're going to save people's mental health. And then the follow-up to this is, what has your experience actually been like through this first semester?
Yeah, I think my first semester, well, what we all expected was obviously a heavily focused curriculum, just learning about the theories, clinical techniques. We wanted to save the world. We were super excited. I think everyone still is remaining excited, but I definitely expected it to be rigorous. And I was expecting myself to just put my head down, do the work, get all the clinical skills that I need to be an effective therapist. All of this is integrated, but there's more that the program actually gave me. My experience has been a really rewarding experience. I've met people who are just amazing. They're so empathetic. I don't know who chose for this program, but My cohort are people who I feel like I can lean on. And it was surprising to have that kind of community built in already. The process of getting all these potential students together in one room, it was like one in a million. And honestly, I think it happens all the time, but I expected a program to be challenging, which it is. And I didn't see the community and the development of like the peers around me and the support from my professors. I've also, I wanted to put my head down, but it's really a program where you need to build these communities and support systems. And I think students and faculty have really been a valuable source in building that. So I really appreciate how close we've all gotten. We've all shared our stories. Everyone's such a strong individual. And I really am surrounded by people who are trying to make the world a better place or better versions of themselves, which is making me a better version of myself. I've become like more self-aware. I'm reflecting more. I'm seeing everybody else's resilience, which is highlighting the resilience that I've had. It's really incredible. The cohort that I have is amazing. I can't speak for everyone, but I feel that we have connected in ways that I didn't feel like I was going to connect before this program.
I have a little bit of experience. I taught at CSUN here, and we were ships passing in the night as far as my time and when you joined here. So CSUN is compared to some of the other interviews that we're doing. Part of this is entirely in person and is a program that you go to campus. You spend your time around these people every day. Is that a different experience than the connection that you're talking about from what you experienced in your undergrad?
So in my undergrad, I still went in person. The community building wasn't as prominent as it is now. And I think it's because of what we're all trying to do. I think it's putting us in a vulnerable position. And if you're not allowing yourself to be vulnerable, you kind of impact what you're learning, or you can't really reflect on the things that are being taught to you because it requires a sense of vulnerability. You don't necessarily need to share that with people, but I think with people going through the same thing, we all empathize, and it makes a safe place to have those sharing abilities. I do say that sometimes we do have Zoom classes, and it does feel like we're a little bit further apart. And when we're in person, I feel that we're a little bit closer, and those feelings are magnified. There's an intensity in the room. There's something in this room where everyone just feels safe and at home. I don't know what that feeling is, but we've cultivated and created this feeling in these classrooms with my cohort. And it's a beautiful thing. I can't really explain it. It's like an awe moment, or it's serenity. It's whatever you want to call it, but it's this super highly focused place where we're all trying to learn and really care for each other.
I love that. It sounds like you're really gaining a lot from the experience, and I love hearing that positive, energy from the very beginning of grad school. The question I have, and this is the therapist in me, I think, is you're talking about a lot of this self-awareness and this insight. Granted, this is a podcast, so with that in mind, are there any insights you've had that you would wanna share that help to shape who you are becoming as a therapist?
Well, we're learning a lot about Bowen. We're learning a lot about Satir, all these theoretical models, and it's really hard to not think about your family
Sure.
and not think about how that at least with Bowen, like intergenerational patterns of like trauma that's happening and what's being passed down. So there are a lot of things that I look back, especially with my parents, and I become more empathetic. I think they're first generation immigrants, so they've never told me their story. And I've realized it's kind of like a survival stance. They want to be strong. They want to save face. When I was younger, I didn't understand this, and I think that that's something that I've always like been upset. I've always growing up in like American culture, I want to express myself. I want to fit in. I never really thought about their journey. I never considered what they've gone through. I never realized their secrets and what they did, their sacrifices. I've always appreciated their sacrifices, but I've never saw them as human, as a person living in this world with flaws. And I think this program kind of highlighted those things, that they're just people and they went through some stuff and they dealt with it the best that they could, and they never had the opportunity or support to express those things. And it's not my story to tell. Well, it is, but it's not. They're going through life still without that support, and I feel kind of helpless at times because I'm trying to push them to change, but you can't make them change. And I think it's because they've always used this, and I keep using coping mechanism, which is like they've always used this behavior in order to survive this world. And that's what I've just been more empathetic. I see them like as people who just need help or just need someone to talk to or support. And I'm just trying to be, and this is just something I did like, it's hard because we're not oversharers, right? And I'm really talking in like this vagueness, and I really want to say more details, but I really can't because it's instilled within me, right? Like I grew up in this environment, so it's so hard for me to open up, and it's so hard for me to, talk about my business, and I have in this cohort because I feel so safe. And I'm not saying that Curt and Katie, I'm not saying you guys don't feel safe. It's just
we're a podcast. People are listening that you have no idea who they are. So it's not safe. But don't think it's safe.
No, absolutely. It's not a safety thing. It's just how I grew up. So it's just to get to that comfort level where I'm like, this is my story. This is what happened. All this this all makes sense. This is why I am the way I am. But that's all true. It's just very hard for where I come from to express that. So when I do end up expressing that, I feel liberated. That's why I said I got so close with my cohort, because I was able to kind of show them a piece of me without judgment. And that's such a very satire, but it's so authentic to who I am. And it just feels like, oh, I've been carrying this like anxious trauma or this story that I felt like nobody cares, or if I do say this, it's not going to be treated in a gentle way, or it's going to be I don't know, destroyed in some way. And that's just how I grew up. And I'm not sure if I'm going on a tangent, but I think that that's as far as I can share with that. I think that that's kind of what I've shared in class, and people have shared their stories too that have really they've been authentic, which allowed me to be authentic. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Their authenticity of my cohort has influenced me to be authentic, because I felt like it's a disservice to them. It's a disservice to myself if I'm not authentic to somebody who's being vulnerable, who's being so open. And that's what I'm here for, right? Like that's one of the reasons I want to be a therapist too, right? I want people to be real and feel that uplifting that I felt once I gave my story. I felt like a weight was lifted off of me. And you do feel vulnerable. I felt like a vulnerable hangover. I felt kind of scared, and I think I told someone like I've never done this, and I just feel like seen in a weird way that I don't want to be seen right now. And I want to go home. Like, I just want to not talk to anybody. Please don't hug me. Please don't say anything. Like, it's not something I'm used to. So yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I think that's as much as I want to share.
Not only does Therapy Notes offer everything you need to support your clients, they also offer outstanding customer service to their users. With 24/7 live customer support, assistance is never more than a phone call or email away, ensuring you have all the assistance you need to focus on what really matters most to you, your clients. Use promo code MODERN and try them free for 2 months today.
And what's really cool about this for me is I had done some pre-interviews with people who wanted to come onto this, and had spoken to Marvin about a month ago. And even just seeing the transformation from where you were in the pre-interview to today, and you had expressed some thoughts around coming from the community that you do, which I think resonates with a lot of first generation people in this field that I've heard from, is it's really scary to be talking about this in ways that you didn't have a model for before. And even in some of the ways that family support ends up showing up around not only the kinds of people who go to therapy, but also just the ideas of what it is to work in mental health as a first generation person dealing with a lot of this personal here as well. And I'm wondering if you're open to sharing anything just around how does your family support? What does that look like as far as, hey, you want to be a therapist to now you're in therapy school. What does the family conversations look like for you right now?
Well, my immediate family, like my dad and my mom, don't really know actually what what I do. I think they don't really ask questions, and I'm not. I don't want to tell them, "Hey, I'm being a therapist because I want to help you." No, it's more of like they play as a role as some as motivators. I think that's kind of they motivate me to be a better person and to help people in similar positions like them. And they do support me in ways of like, how are you doing? And how is everything? Like, I haven't seen you in a while. So when I visit them pretty weekly, like periodically, like weekly, and they're always happy to see me, and they're always happy to ask me about my life, but not really work. They don't really want to talk about work. They want to talk about how I'm doing, how if I'm eating. That's like the very first question I get. If I'm eating, if my finances are okay, and usually I just say yes because I don't want them to worry. But as a first generation student, the financial stress is really a constant thing. Obviously, I have another job. I also get this emotional support from my family. It's hard with friends because I really want to excel academically, but something that I've been doing is kind of neglecting my friends a lot and neglecting time spent with them. I've spent maybe, I don't know, through this whole semester, I've spent maybe 2 days with my friends. And it's a really tough position because I've had this conversation letting them know that I wasn't going to be around. I wasn't going to spend as much time with them. I haven't spent as much time with my family either. And they've seen the differences. I've seen their expressions and and their behavior changed a little bit, and it's tough because it's like they were used to just hanging out with me, calling me, doing whatever. Like, I had so much free time before this that it's really hard to nurture those personal relationships when you're trying to excel academically, and that's something that I'm trying to balance. It's tough. It's tough because you want to be we're learning about relationships and how that is important for an individual. And I'm not doing that in my life. And I'm neglecting those things. So it will cause more burnout. And I think that that's something that we talk about a lot in self-care. It's hard to practice, especially when you want to be really good at what you want to do. And that stems from its own thing, I think. Like, I think I need to work on that. I don't know what that is, but that's something I'm still trying to figure out.
It sounds like, from what you're describing, this is a really intense program. It's very positive. You have a wonderful cohort. It's something that you feel very passionate about, and there's a lot of sacrifice that comes into that, especially given that your parents don't really understand what it is that you're doing, don't really want to talk about it. I'm assuming this is related to kind of mental health is taboo. We don't talk about it. It's nervios. It's something else. It's not a whole field of study slash profession that someone goes into. And so to me, it seems like there's layers of sacrifice that you're making to do this work, sacrificing time with friends, sacrificing time with family, doing something your parents don't understand, and just the really hard work of becoming a therapist. I really like this conversation because it's pointing out how transformative and sacrifice inducing the whole process is. Does it feel worth it?
I don't know yet.
That's a fair
And
answer. That's a better answer than my question was. I'll let you continue, but that's a perfect answer.
yeah, I don't know if it's worth it yet. I think that it feels like it's worth it, but it may not be worth it because if I keep going down this track, I could lose these friendships. I could potentially hurt, my family dynamics that I have right now. And you brought up a really good point. I didn't really see it that way, but yeah, that me not expressing that that I'm in mental health is a scary thing to tell them. It's scary because they didn't want to deal with that. And for context, is my parents don't like medicine. They don't like medicine. They're very holistic. They have a huge mistrust in like government support, medicine, and rightfully so. They've gone through a lot of things that have made them very suspicious of the world, very anti-medicine, anti-government. So if they hear that I am in this field, they would freak out a little bit. They would be a little scared, maybe of me. I'm not really sure how they would react to that, and maybe that's why I haven't brought it up. But I also think that they see that I'm happy, and I just don't think that we have that kind of relationship where we ask a lot. They're just like, okay, he's happy, he's fine. As long as he's eating and I think they're very survival stats. Like he's eating, he has a home, he's paying his rent, he's not financially struggling. Okay, I'm good, And that's mostly my dad, right? Because that's the way I think he shows love. So that's great. He's like worried about me financially, worried about me if I'm eating. Emotionally, those things don't really resonate. I think that's more my mom. Yeah, it's super scary. And back to the question, I don't know if it will be worth it. I don't know. It feels like it's worth it. At the moment, I don't know.
You've brought up that you're working. You just said that your parents are not concerned that you're, financially struggling at the time. But I do want to, through this series, kind of talk about the role that money plays. And Katie and I have long been advocates for paying people for the work that they do. And knowing that you are going through practicum interviews and being able to balance your schedule out. Can you talk about how that's affecting your decision-making process as you're looking at being able to continue to support yourself with this being added onto your education requirements right now?
Yeah, so I'm working right now, and it is a struggle to pay for classes. I've obviously taken out a couple of loans, but that's always in the back of your head. And how am I going to pay back these loans? And luckily, I do have a very, very supportive employer. She's amazing. She's like a mentor. She's supported me through this whole process and has given me flexibility with work and has allowed me to keep a job, which is really within itself like an amazing thing. I was actually thinking I had to quit my job before I joined this program and commit another sacrifice to this, right? Like financial struggles and stuff. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna do this. So because I have such a flexible job, and I'm very lucky to have that, I don't know if it will remain flexible. I want to get a field work site or a position that kind of works with that schedule. So yeah, that's gonna affect the amount of work I can take, and it's also gonna affect where I can go. So I'm like really interested in like Strength United, which provides like counseling and the community service that I want to in the community I want to work with. They're very like abuse, trauma, mental health issues, all that stuff, and I really want to work with this organization, but I don't know if my schedule will align. So there are a lot of like entities that I want to work with. I just don't know that I have the flexibility to work with them. So it's going to be a struggle to like, I haven't done the research yet, which is because I'm in the midst of finals. So I'm really stressed about that. But once I do that research, it will have to align with a lot of like my current job, my academic world, obviously, and CSUN does a good job of vetting all these places, so they have to work with with the schedule that CSUN gives, like the academic schedule that they give the students. So these places are already aware of that. These organizations that they gave us are aware that they need to work with our school schedule, but they don't need to work with our work schedule. So that's
Yeah.
going to be a big, big, big thing. So as much as they're interviewing me to like be part of their organization, I'm really interviewing them to see if it fits with me, if it fits with the things that I can do, because I don't come from a lot of money, and that is a very it might take a hit. Like my education might take a hit. I don't want it to. I think that there is a place that could potentially work for me, and I'm hoping I'm more hoping than that being a possibility. But then I also would have to have that conversation with my employer and ask for a little bit more lenience. And I was already planning, you know, months ago, I was planning to probably not work that position anymore. So that's something maybe I would have to consider if the opportunity of working in these organizations is just too good of an opportunity to pass down. Yeah, if they offer like amazing training, amazing supervision, and it's something that will make me a better therapist, make me a better person, and it's a risk that I have to take. And you know, my family has been taking risks since I was born. So before I was born, they've been taking risks their whole lives. And you know what? We're survivors. We're resilient, and we'll figure it out.
Looking ahead, when you're finished, when you're moving into whatever type of clinical placement that you end up in, there's a lot that's changing in the world. There's a lot that is important to be able to understand. And so Curt and I talk about all the things that we weren't taught in grad school. And so the question is really what is being taught in grad school about the current world of therapy, the technological advances, the social justice, self-care, the job market. Like what are you learning about as far as what is in the future for you once you graduate and start into this profession in earnest?
Wow. Okay. So this topic of technology being integrated into therapy was actually super interesting. And I was actually listening to your podcast with Dr. Ben Caldwell, and I was like, my job is in jeopardy right now. AI is taking over. I don't know what to do. You know, it's scary. We're not really talking about this. I think that there's maybe one class that we had a conversation, and that was in my law and ethics class, which Dr. Ben Caldwell, teaches. I don't have him as a professor, um, but I have a different professor. But brought up the rise of AI, telehealth. You know, we learn about these online platforms because since COVID, it's been growing as an industry. Telehealth, online platforms, more people are doing that. It's more accessible to people. AI is also beginning to shape the field, and there are discussions on how it could support therapy, how these tools or virtual assistants or whatever the AI I don't know, AI programs are trying to do are trying to help mental health. I can see how AI could streamline a lot of the mental health ideas to people and make it more accessible to low income families, underserved communities, all these things. It's a little bit scary because it feels like our field is not becoming obsolete, but it's becoming easier to distribute, and AI could make this easier for other populations, but the in-person therapy, the one-on-one therapy, it feels like it's going to be such a niche thing that is only going to be available to a certain population and the population that can afford it. I think it's just going to be only for individuals who have that luxury to get this type of therapy, that one-on-one, that one-on-one therapy, that feeling that I felt with my cohort, that feeling of connection, all that is isn't going to be available to the population that I want to work with. I think that 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 is moving towards that direction. I don't want it to, and I think that we've had the discussion in our class that I'm a pessimistic, and I feel that there are people in positions, in administrative positions in our government that are looking at the most cost-effective thing to do for mental health. And if AI can provide that, they will most certainly do that in our administration and make that widely available to underserved communities to help them get better in a sense of making them productive members of society. And the the therapy that I'm learning, that one-on-one, really figuring out who this person is, all these, patterns, all this other stuff is going to be exclusive to a higher social economic status individual, somebody who has the money and resources to spend. And it's a really like sucky feeling. And I don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime, but AI moves really, really fast. It's insane. We don't even have regulations for AI right now. And I think that there are some organizations that are currently making regulations for them. But it's like we're making regulations for the AI that we have now, but AI is moving so fast that once we catch up to that, it's like another thing and then another thing. And it's evolving so much faster than we think.
When you hire Buying Time, you get an entire team of accountable, knowledgeable virtual assistants with different specialties. It's a pretty amazing one-stop shop for your business needs. And I should know, I've been a happy customer of Buying Time since 2015. Buying Time has helped me and other therapists with admin and client customer service, finances and bookkeeping, including sending out invoices and super bills, setting up automated systems to take care of clients during onboarding, marketing, websites, social media, blogs, newsletters, and a whole lot more.
Buying Time believes in streamlining efficiency and being cost effective, so they help you to regularly evaluate systems to make sure you're not paying for programs and platforms you don't need. And they put together a free systems inventory checklist to help all of us to uncover hidden expenses and optimize spending in your practice. Go to buyingtimellc.com/MTSG to get your free checklist now. Where are you turning for advice on what to do next? Whether it's in additional trainings, whether it's thinking about the next steps of your career. You're obviously a listener of the podcast, so thank you for that. But where are you finding yourself gravitating towards as far as looking at a career path?
I'm asking my professors. I'm asking what they did and what worked for them. And luckily, CSUN hires a diverse population, so you get a little bit of everything. You get people who are in private practice, people who work for organizations. And again, I don't want to. I want to talk about my law and ethics professor because she's been the most helpful person in this journey. Really tells you how it is, what organization she's worked for, and what you can get from these organizations, whether it's experience but not good pay, or good pay but not good experience. And maybe you'll find that golden nugget where you get both, but it's very hard to find and very competitive, of course. But yeah, I'm getting guidance from the professors who are willing to share. And I think the professors who are established but are new to the field, newly licensed, I think. And by newly licensed, they probably have like 5 years in the field. So they're not new, but their practice is relatively new. So I think that they give the best advice because nobody tells you how to run your business. Nobody tells you how to be a licensed marriage and family therapy in private practice. They don't tell you how to run a business, how to be I don't know, cost effective. We're here to help. We're not here to, be accountants or trying to advertise or something. But it's really part of the business. I think that you need to have that kind of mindset in order to be successful in a private practice. And then you can work for organizations too. But it comes with its own pros and cons. But leaning on them and kind of learning their story, and I know things change a lot, but having some form of like a foundation of what will happen after you graduate and what happens after your license, and can you take your clients from a certain organization? Yes, you can, but you can't. The records really don't belong to you. So all these things are things that we're being taught in this law and ethics course, and I'm learning from our professor. Our professor is like you know um has used her own personal experience and say, this is what's happened to me. It might not happen to you, but just be aware that this is a possibility in your journey to license, to get your license. So it's very nice to lean on them. I'm not sure, and everyone's open. I'm not sure that everyone will be, but I want to lean on them for that. I don't think that there's any online sources that really provide like guidance for marriage and family therapy businesses, like how to start your marriage and family therapist business. And if there is, I mean, I'm sure they're making a lot of money because there's so many therapists there's so many people who want to be therapists and have a business, So if they have like a blueprint or, something that could help someone, I'm sure they're not giving that out for free.
So before we finish up, I know that one of the questions we've asked other folks is, what have been the biggest surprises for you in this new grad school experience?
One of the biggest surprises has been, I guess, the broader world context and how that has influenced my learning experience with the election cycle, the ongoing Gaza war, and other global political events. I found it increasingly challenging to navigate the way these issues are affecting people, especially in our cohort, their mental health, our mental health, the worldview, the uncertainty of the new administration. So it's been really eye-opening to realize that these global conflicts can impact individuals on a personal level, especially when people bring these concerns up during class, or we brought them up during our classes, framing it in a way, what if somebody brings this concern into therapy? And these things don't align with the way you think or the way you feel. How do we navigate that? How do we how do we navigate our own feelings about these world events, and how can we stay objective, because these things really impact us and we do see these things through that lens, and it's hard not to try to, I guess, influence your client into a way that you think it's more reasonable, the way that you think. It's hard to deal with those kind of things. So our trainings really emphasize on being empathetic, validating these feelings. And while we have to recognize those things, we really can't justify the negative actions that come from those complex issues, right? So it's one thing, I think, that we were learning. It's one thing to really empathize and validate the feelings that they're feeling, but it's not good to justify those actions. It's the justification. Nothing harmful or harmful behavior is never justified. We're only validating the feeling that they felt. So that's something that I'm kind of trying to keep. I'm trying to validate people making certain decisions or thinking a certain way. I'm validating how they're feeling because they're feeling that for a reason, but I'm not excusing harmful behavior. And I think that that's keeping my thoughts, or that's keeping me more objective than I've realized. So I really liked whatever professor framed it that way. I really enjoy that framing because it really put me in a position where, like, I'm not trying to change this person. I'm trying to understand them, but I'm not excusing their behavior. And I think that that's beautifully said and put. And I'm still trying to learn and navigate those sensitive topics and really understand like how this larger social and political environment really influences individuals and myself. So I need to really humble myself and really expect the unexpected. And hopefully, I'm not done with this program, so I'm just started. So hopefully next time you have me, Curt and Katie, you'll see that I am changed. I'm enlightened. I figured this out, and I'll bring that. I'll talk more about that then.
I think that's a lot to ask for a year, but it'll be interesting to see how far you've come.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, and to stay up with our content. And if you're interested in this and checking out Marvin and our other grad student stories, make sure that you follow us on our social media. Join our Facebook group, the Modern Therapist Group, to continue on with the conversations. And until next time, I'm Curt Widhelm with Katie Vernoy and Marvin Vasquez.
Thanks again to our partner Therapy Notes, the highest rated software for mental health professionals. Don't forget to use promo code MODERN for 2 free months and make the switch today.
Buying Time is a full-service virtual support agency that is standing by to support you in your practice. It's time for you to get out of the day-to-day and bring in someone you can trust that has the experience to help you with all your business needs.
And don't forget to go to buyingtimellc.com/MTSG for your free systems inventory checklist. Get on the path to less expenses and more profit.
Thank you for listening to the Modern Therapist Survival Guide. Learn more about who we are and what we do at mtsgpodcast.com. You can also join us on Facebook and Twitter. And please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our episodes.